Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, the regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining us this afternoon, we have Joe Levy, CEO of Sophos, Richard Seewald, founder and managing partner at Evolution, as well as Marc van Zadelhoff, CEO of Mimecast. We're here to discuss the key forces driving the direction and long-term evolution of the cybersecurity space. It is great to have all of you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks. Joe, I want to kick this off with you. I want to reference the Sophos 2025 threat report. I thought it was interesting that cyber criminals, they've engaged in intrusion-style attacks, but with limited use of AI. You would think that they'd be leveraging it as much as the good actors are in this respect.
Great to be joining you, Jill. And you're right. What I would say, unfortunately, is that it's still early days for attackers using AI in the course of their attacks. They're still going after low-hanging fruit, and unfortunately, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of unprotected attack surface. Ransomware, of course, is one of the greatest scourges that we've dealt with within the cybersecurity industry over the past decade or so, and that just continues to be really successful with them. They don't need to use anything more sophisticated than walking through the front door, unfortunately. So it's access and identity abuses, it's sprawling attack surfaces, it's poor resiliency within the organizations. They don't need to actually start leveraging AI yet, but we're absolutely starting to see early stages of that happening at a greater extent.
Yeah. And I think, Richard, really what the key here is first is to think with a cyber first mindset from the top down in the culture of an organization. I mean, these emerging threats it's not a thing where it's nice to have a cybersecurity response plan. It's something you need to have. It's part of the competitive landscape. And I would argue one of the most key verticals when you're thinking about who you're going to be doing business with.
Absolutely, Jill. Pleasure to be here. Great to be on again on your show. You're absolutely right. I think, building upon Joe's point today, where we may be in a environment where there's a lot of low-hanging fruit and machine learning and AI capabilities are not being exploited to the maximum, it doesn't mean that doesn't happen tomorrow. And it doesn't mean that organizations shouldn't be prepared for what will be an environment where it's faster, cheaper, and more capable to deploy an attack with machine learning and AI and have the impact that you want. And that we will see, in my view, over the next 12, 18, 24 more months develop in a way that is faster and more impactful than we're seeing now.
Yeah. And Marc, you had some staggering numbers in the Mimecast report as well, just released in July, that 44% of breach incidents, it's up 32% since 2024, and it's disproportionately, significantly to 88% of the smaller businesses. That's a big disparity.
Hitting small businesses, and great to be here as well, Jill. Hitting small businesses, it's an easy target versus the large enterprises that have tons of budget and staff to handle this. In that same survey, 81% of respondents were expecting to be attacked by generative AI. So they're expecting it. They know it's coming. And if you think about, the sophistication of those horribly written emails we used to get from, the Nigerian prince with all sorts of typos, you can perfect that in whatever local language the victim is speaking, in whatever English or Italian they're speaking, and cater it right to breaching that company.
Yeah. And of course, Marc, public sector and critical infrastructure, that remains high risk as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're seeing attacks in that area, not just in SMB. And then obviously there's a frothy political environment. I think short of actually us being in a war, we're in a almost war footing in terms of the tension, geopolitical tension that is out there on the planet right now. Not to mention, I keep thinking about our, government and what's happening there, not to get into our politics, but the insider risk. One of the biggest risks we see is insiders being at a corporation or government employees being frustrated and then doing untoward activities to sabotage or take information.
Yeah. And Richard, I see you ready to chime in there as well. I mean, it's no longer something that you could be reactive about. It's something that you must be proactive about. So when you think about it from the investment perspective, what types of companies are you looking at that are going to be the leaders and subject matter experts as we continue to evolve in the cyberspace?
So I think, some of the areas that we discussed here today, ransomware, we backed a company called Halcyon that is purposely, utilizing technology to defend, protect, and then respond to ransomware attacks, then actually recover from ransomware attack. It's an essential part, we think, of the cybersecurity stack. And I know that, some of the individuals on the call have partnered with Halcyon. That's one area. I'd say a security side, we were investors in a company called Protect AI that got acquired by Palo Alto Networks just recently. We believe this category has tremendous upside and actually jumped right back in to this segment, backing Noma Security in a Series B, $100 million round that we just completed a few days ago. So that AI security attack surface that has yet to been utilized, we're going to see growth there over the next 12 to 18 months in ways that will require organizations to have that type of security in place in order to defend and protect in an optimal way.
Joe, what are some of the solutions that Sophos is providing when you're working with enterprise to make sure that they have, an intelligent cyber-first strategy in place?
Particularly for those smaller organizations that can't afford to make investment in their own 24/7 by 365 security operations centers. We run one of the largest MDR, managed detection and response businesses on the planet today. We're currently protecting about 32,000 organizations of all sizes, from very, very small offices up to organizations with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of employees. That's becoming a really common model for the consumption of cybersecurity now, because the industry has finally arrived at the realization that this is not purely a technological problem. You're not going to be able to solve this by just throwing the latest and greatest kind of technology at it. It actually requires human operation, human intervention. We're well past the days of set it and forget it cybersecurity, and this is becoming the new default mode of operation. I also want to come back real quick to the point about AI, because this is such an important topic today, and it's such early days, both for the attacker and the defender. And we're seeing variations of attacks that are involving the use of AI with actual humans involved in this. We're reading more and more about, and we're dealing more with this threat of fake IT workers, North Korean DPRK. These are highly syndicated attacks that are happening now, and they are leveraging AI because they're allowing people to impersonate other kinds of identities, other sorts of workers. These people are getting into organizations. We really have no idea the extent of this at this point, but this begins to illustrate the ways in which AI can be leveraged by the attackers beyond just the mere professionalization of a phishing attack. And again, unfortunately, it's really early days for that.
And Joe, what's interesting is we actually did a panel on ethical hacking this week in studio. And as we rolled out with our intro, a fake Jill did the intro, and then we cut into me, the real Jill. If you're not paying attention, it takes you a minute to recognize, oh, wait, that was a fake, because you're not always looking at the nuances when you're kind of going through the motions of the introduction. And then when you switch over to me and you see, more of my personality and my mannerisms, it does take you aback for a moment. So think about if they could do that with executives or world leaders or so forth. I mean, that is something that can potentially move the markets in any number of scenarios. I would say it's still not as sophisticated as it can get. The hackers, they do, or the bad actors have quite some way to go, but it is pretty sophisticated at this point.
It certainly is. It's really scary when you think about what's possible today and think about the rate at which this technology is developing. I mean, just look at the advancements that we've made from the generation of GPT-3 to 4 and now to 5. The rate of advancement is absolutely staggering. And those telltale signs that we can rely on today when there is some sort of an impersonation or a fraud, I don't know that we're going to be able to rely on those forever.
Mark, do you think the good actors or the bad actors are winning this race at this point?
Man, I've been in the space for 25 years. It's a cat and mouse for all those times. I think certainly it's a good time to be a hacker with the availability of the tools that we've been discussing on the attacking side. Having said that, Mimecast and, I have the great pleasure of complimenting Joe in many of those same accounts. We have 40,000 customers around the world, and we help complement each other in what we're helping customers with. One of the things that we're doing is leveraging, obviously, AI in our solutions. So there's a defensive play for AI that it can't be underestimated either. We have such sophistication in our solutions. I know Joe does as well, and that's where Richard is investing, is companies that leverage AI on the defense side. We're doing that in what we call human risk, right? Because all those scenarios that Joe and Richard are talking about requires generally a human, an employee, to make a mistake. And I was talking to a customer yesterday, 70% of the breaches they're seeing is because in the end, a hacker owns a human on the other end making a mistake. And so Our strategy is around human risk and increasing human cyber intelligence, getting our employees aware of not making mistakes and also not doing, again, a malicious activity when they're in a bad mood or having a bad day at the office.
Yeah, and Mark, we learned something on the ethical panel that we just referenced before, that hackers tend to go where it's going to hit your emotions, right? Can you imagine being a family member and you see a fake child, a deep fake, and they're asking for money or they're stuck somewhere? I mean, you could see the ramifications of these things, and the bad actors are smart in a way that they're playing on emotions as well, whether it's personal or something at work. So to your point, it really is a psychological cat and mouse game as well. Richard, I want to talk about the overall M&A environment for a moment here, because the cyber demand continues to outpace the supply. So do you think there's going to be development of these tools organically, or do you expect to see the M&A environment heat up?
I think you're going to see M&A heat up in the second half in a significant way. So the things that we're seeing in the pipes and, in the works will certainly increase the M&A statistics as we get into the second half of the year, and I believe into 2026. As the IPO market opens up and new companies have the opportunity to go public, that creates, again, the type of paper and conditions where you're going to see more consolidation. Consolidation is the name of the game over the next 12 to 18 months in the cybersecurity space. We're seeing it with, acquisitions that I mentioned around Palo Alto buying Protect AI, and then after that, CyberArk. I think you're going to see more private to private consolidation and some public acquisition as well. Having said that, the private equity markets are very active in terms of acquiring businesses and then rolling up certain segments. So M&A in the cybersecurity space is healthy and growing, and that's, we believe, good for our category, but also good for the industry overall.
Right. Joe, tell us about your nearly billion-dollar acquisition of SecureWorks this year.
That's right. Earlier this year, we announced the closing of an $859 million acquisition of the well-known cybersecurity brand SecureWorks. They became part of the Sophos organization. They're getting integrated into our products and our services offerings right now. The reason why we did that is because we are observing this change in trends within buyer expectations in the industry. Buyers are more focused on outcomes than ever before, and a vendor's ability to produce those kinds of predictable outcomes with this new kind of an accountability model, I think, is going to be driving the industry forward. This is why the consumption of cybersecurity in the form of these hybrid packages between technologies and services is so important, because it improves the accountability model, because it produces more predictable outcomes. This is why we're seeing the kind of hyper growth in those areas. And that was the driving thesis behind our acquisition. Make us a powerhouse in our ability to be able to do that for the globe. We have 32,000 MDR customers I manage, but we have 600,000 customers globally consuming other forms of our technologies. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to enhance the offerings that we're delivering to those customers by bringing them a better accountability model through these services.
Yeah. Mark, I'm hearing a lot of what could potentially be autonomous security, and continuous compliance seems to be the direction that we'll see over the next 1 to 3 years. I think in addition to having that continuous compliance, it removes a lot of the silos as well. I think cybersecurity professionals, one of the things that they have been demanding is not to operate in silos so much and be able to get that bird's eye view. And these newer technologies are allowing them to identify those risks across the organization instead of not having a more complete look of where the risk lies.
Yeah, I think it's the days of companies trying to cobble it all together are over. That's why you're seeing the emergence of platforms. Again, Joe and I think, are both participating in that, building platforms, in our case, around human risk and bringing together email security, insider risk, data security, and collaboration security and awareness training all into one platform. And then a dashboard that shows you which of your employees are riskier in their behaviors and which are not, and applying differential controls to that. So that's bringing this together and then integrating in with a Sophos and a Palo Alto and a CrowdStrike and an Okta. Customers are no longer accepting a single point solution on an island. They want a platform, and even that platform needs to integrate with the other platforms and the point solutions out there to bring this together. It's too hard otherwise.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate all of your insights. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.